Alright guys, so I wanted to do a review on the SB-2000s, and as you can see I have this set up for my sealed versus ported comparison. But the SB-2000s are the sealed boxes. That's this little one here and this little one here. The ported versions are much bigger. Those are the PB-2000s. These are the SB-2000s. S meaning sealed, P meaning ported. So SVS sent these out in order for me to do that comparison, the ported versus sealed comparison, so I can get an idea. So keep an eye out for that video. But what these are sealed boxes. They are proprietary drivers, 12-inch drivers, and they are, SVS went through over 20 versions of those to get them right. They're very picky about it, and I appreciate that kind of thing. That they're known for bass. They are probably one of the world's best subwoofer manufacturers, and so they've really when it comes to being finicky about bass, I don't think you can find many people that are even more so. But with these subs, you got the 12-inch drivers. You've got a 1100 watt peak amplifier with 500 watts RMS, which is plenty of power. And for me, for my listening levels, I found the SBs to be plenty. I didn't feel like they ran out of headroom for me. However, they do have less headroom than the PB-2000s. And so if you run at really high levels, you'll probably want to consider a ported box. In terms of form factor, they are very small. They're easy to locate. They're easy to manage. Obviously, the PB version is a lot bigger, so you can kind of get an idea there. These have a very, very tight bass response. They are tighter than the PB-2000s. However, that is not to say in any way that the PB-2000s are sloppy, and I'll get into that in a minute. They have a nice piano gloss finish, these particular SBs do. And, one thing about the sealed boxes and with sealed subwoofers in general is that with a ported box, you're not going to get much response under the factory rating. So the SBs are rated for 17 hertz. You're not going to get much below that. Now, the SBs are rated for 19 hertz. So on paper, it looks like the PBs go deeper. However, the sealed boxes in-room gain, these will actually go down to 10 or 11 hertz in my room, which is beyond my hearing limits. My hearing goes to about 17 hertz. Beyond that, I really can't hear much. So in those terms, the sealed boxes do go deeper. However, the ported boxes sound deeper. They have a deeper emphasis in that lower range. And for more on that, check out the sealed versus ported video. But in terms of the sealed boxes, they aren't as pronounced at depth as the ported box. I don't know if I said that right, but and these are a little bit cheaper than the ported version, and that's primarily due to weight and shipping costs and things like that. So they are a little bit cheaper than the PB-2000. So in that case, it's nice. But for me, the question for me is, would I personally buy these? And in reality, no, I wouldn't. And it's not because they're not great. It's not because they don't sound good or anything like that. I have specific preferences. I like the way the ported subs have a more pronounced volume at depth. So as you go down the frequency, it gets a little bit louder. And for me, I like that because I don't know, to me it sounds bigger. It sounds fuller. But there are people who are into reference kind of stuff that want it as accurate as possible and no coloration. The SBs make a lot of sense. They make a lot of sense if you mix sound, if you mix music, if you mix movie soundtracks, or just anything like that, and you want to really get an accurate representation of what's going on. The SB-2000s make a lot of sense in a dual configuration. Okay, and a lot of people ask, well, will the SB-2000s be okay in home theater? Yes, in comparison, especially to other sealed or other ported subwoofers. If you go to like a typical ported sub that you might find in a box store, and you run those against these are going to go deeper, and that's going to have a lot more of that, that dinosaur feeling. You're going to get a lot more deep bass. I mean, these will go deeper than you can hear. Okay. However, the ported subs will do better in a home theater environment just because they're more pronounced at depth. So that's kind of the difference. But people that are very into accurate representation and accurate listening and critical listening, the SBs make a lot of sense, and particularly for two-channel guys. Guys that listen to vinyl and all that kind of stuff and have $4,000 speakers and stuff like that. The SB-2000s make a lot of sense to get that bottom half of the range going. They do very well for that kind of thing. But for me, it was an issue of sensitivity. I have, a mild form of Asperger's. I mean, almost undetectable to most people, but for me, it's an issue. I have a problem hearing sounds. Bother me a lot if it's off, if it's something that if I walk by a car and someone honks the horn, I'll feel bad for like a day. Okay, it's that kind of sensitivity. I don't like going to concerts because it's just too loud. My ears are, they're tender. And what happened with me when I plugged these in, I just came off the PB-1000s. I plugged in the SB-2000s, and the sound is beautiful. The music is a little bit tighter. But for me, it's almost too tight. And I don't know if it's because it's a sealed box with no pressure relief, if that's causing my ear issues. And again, this is pretty mild. It's just something I just kind of picked up. I'm like, and I asked my wife, I said, are you hearing this too? And she's like, yeah, I do. It's a little punchier. And what she said, and I actually I'm wondering how this phenomenon works out. Maybe it was just the way my room correction worked out. But with the sealed subs, it almost sounded as though the highs were a little bit too crisp. And I know for a fact the highs didn't change because I'm running the same speakers. So it's just kind of a weird phenomenon. I don't know. There may be no credibility to that, but it's just something that we both noticed. And again, it could be just the way the room EQ, my AVR EQ just kind of, I don't know, maybe it handled things a little bit differently. But it's just one of those things I noticed. I noticed that sensitivity in my ears, and not painful, maybe slightly uncomfortable, but it wasn't something that I got used to it as time went on. And when I first got it, it was really noticeable. And then after they broke in about a couple weeks, about 3 weeks in, then it got more comfortable and it was easier on me. So maybe that was me getting used to it. I know the subwoofers broke in a little bit, so maybe that was part of it. But what I did notice for sure is that when I plugged in the PB-2000s, that issue went away completely. So there was no discomfort at all. And so that's just, that's specific to me. I have sensitive ears, not so much that I can hear amazing things, but that, my ears get fatigued easily. So if you have, children with autism, if you have another person in the house that gets headaches easily, or anybody that's, particularly sensitive to sound, you may want to consider the ported version. Now, granted, these are much smaller, so they're easier to fit in most places. The PB-1000 is a little bit bigger. It's kind of the in-between, the SB-2000 and the PB-2000. The PB-1000 is kind of right in the middle, so that's a little bit smaller. But, so I'm just trying to give you guys, reasons you would or wouldn't get these. Now, I know for certain that there's a lot of people that watch my channel who are going to love these. They're going to love the SB-2000s. They've got such flat response. The kick drum in music is more pronounced with the sealed boxes. They're just not as pronounced in, under that 40 hertz range, under the real depth range. That's where a ported box will come in a little bit better. It'll be more pronounced. And that's another thing, is if you have these sealed boxes, you can actually, and you want more of that home theater, more pronounced depth at the lower frequencies, you can get a mini DSP 2x4, a UMIC 1, and Room EQ Wizard, and you can actually shape that curve to be a little more pronounced at depth. So you can actually make a sealed box kind of act like a ported box in terms of room response. And so there are options, and you're not stuck. And of course, you can go the other way too. You can do that with a ported box. You can give it more of a sealed box response, more of a flatter response. I personally like that pronounced, pronounced output at depth. That's my personal preference. But I think these are great. I don't find anything wrong with them other than my personal preferences. Everything else was right. I mean, these things, no bad sounds, no bad noises. They had plenty of output for me. If you like to listen really loud, you'll want to step up to a ported box. But if you like listening to music and just getting, I don't know, you're very, if you're a music purist, SB-2000s make a lot of sense, and I would definitely recommend them for people that are in that situation. It really is just a preference thing. So in terms of that, I think I've covered it all. In terms of the SB-2000s, I like them. They're quality, for sure. I just happen to prefer the ported subs more. But I know some of you will absolutely prefer the sealed. So I'll be doing a ported versus sealed article on the website, as well as another video that I just shot a moment ago on the issue. So you guys will be able to kind of figure out what's right for you. So anyway, guys, hopefully that helps, and please subscribe.